Guys, I am very excited to show you the Kingbull Hunter 2.0. Kingbull sent this over for a review. I've got a few thoughts, and I don't think this is going to be the review that you might expect it to be. Although, just to preface, I actually really love this bike, but it's not going to be the one for me. But we are going to get Emma's thoughts because, well, I'll leave that for the end of the review. First and foremost, let me give you a quick overview of the hardware here, and then we'll talk about the riding experience and take a quick cruise. 750 watt brushless motor on the back. It does have a headlight, a big old honking headlight, and a tail light. And if we go ahead, turn the headlight on, nice and bright. Believe it or not, it is actually nice and bright. But if we look at the tail light, it has one of my favorite features, and there's only one thing I would add, which is turn signals. But you can see as I brake, it'll go ahead, get a little brighter so people know that you're stopping. I wouldn't mind a turn signal, but at this price, you really cannot beat that. It does have a horn. Not too bad, kind of mean sounding, but you know, it is what it is. It has a removable battery, which I'm a big fan of, only because when I go to do my wacky little solar, you know, ideas, it's a lot easier to access wiring and things like that. It's not all built into the frame. It's also easier to replace these guys. The frame is 6061 aluminum, and it's not the lightest bike in the world, but it's also not extremely heavy. And I say this because even with 26 by 4 fat tires, which are very cozy, very comfy, right? It's a good squishy ride, especially if you air them down. I like them a little more firm, whatever. You can actually pedal this thing if it's completely dead. It does have 5 pedal assist levels and a twist throttle. It does have hydraulic zoom brakes and then a 7-speed Shimano with the single gear in the front. It's pretty typical when it comes to e-bikes on that front. But you will see it does have a little bit of suspension, and I gotta say, you can bottom this thing out. It's a hardtail though. If you are pedaling it, it's not the worst thing in the world to go ahead and have to huff and puff. Because of the hardtail, more of your energy is transferred to that rear, through the drivetrain, right? A couple accessories here that I think are really nice because it comes kitted the way that most folks will use this. Only a single battery, not a dual battery, not a big deal for the vast majority of people. I love that it comes with plastic fenders. That's a huge deal to me, and especially because if you guys recall our last couple videos on our electric expeditions, those have they got dented, they got beat up, they got a little rusty, they look like crap. These, however, they're very resistant to that nonsense. It also does come with a metal rack and a couple holes in there, but you can customize this how you want. It even comes with bungee cords. That kind of surprised me. I really like that. Otherwise, the grips are not the worst. They're definitely not the best, but you know, the little things that you can customize, and if you are that picky, you're gonna customize it anyways. This display is a tilting display, and if it looks flickery, I can't help that. But it does not look flickery in real life. I'm wearing polarized glasses though, and as long as my head is vertical, I can see it perfectly well. So that should help those of you with prescription glasses. The seat, I actually really like the seat. We'll get Emma's opinion on that as well. But I think it's actually pretty good. It's not a cushion seat. That is something that you can add as well. All these little things that realistically, like saddles are such a custom thing. I wouldn't expect them to really give a whole custom deal because of course they'll invest all the money there and somebody's gonna hate it. So invariable, but instead I think they went real middle of the road, and I think based on my use, I think it's pretty good. Again, we'll get Emma's thoughts on this. Overall, the design, I think it looks fantastic. It's real beefy. The black frame, I think looks awesome. So the decals here, I think are real subtle, and actually, I think we might do our own little decals there. I think that'd be great. The Hunter's back here. This one, I believe, is painted on. I could be wrong about that. As well as what kind of looks like the Red Bull symbol here. That one's painted on as well, but it's not offensive. There's nothing offensive about this bike. It is just like a really cool bike. Now the kickstand on the back, not in the way, no matter what. It's never gonna be in the way. They don't touch, which is really nice. But one thing you might notice, and this isn't a huge deficit for me, it's definitely not a big deficit for Emma in the way that we ride, but you can see there's not a whole lot of distance here. Why is that, right? So you could potentially turn, right, and hit your foot there depending on how you pedal. Now I always pedal with the ball of my foot, so they really don't stick out. So if I'm here Yeah, I'm not gonna hit it, but depending on how you ride, if you ride it, you know, middle, like right in the arch there, yeah, you might smack that. But realistically, I'm turning while keeping the wheel straight, right? I'm leaning to turn when that might be a factor. So I might add, you can lock out this front fork. There's a little jiggle there, but just leave it unlocked if you've got it. 48 volt, 15 amp hour battery. Like I said, 32 to 37 miles is what I would expect to get if you're riding the way that we do, which is throttle only. This is an interesting bike because usually when you have those big old wheels, right, you have this big clunky frame, and it's really not too bad. I think it comes in without the battery just under 70 pounds. But here's the thing. I've raised my seat up to about where, you know, you get a little bit of bend right here, a little tiny bit of bend. And for me, this is not the optimal position. I do not do super well. I've got back pain. So I don't do super well leaned over. Now this isn't it's not super aggressive. And once you're riding, it's really not too bad. But you want to make sure that, of course, when this is fully extended, you have a slight bit of bend. But here we are. Well, one thing that helps keep me a little more upright is actually the shortness of this frame, which is also kind of a disadvantage to me. See, as someone who has slightly shorter legs, and apparently, according to Emma, slightly longer torso, she says I'm kind of disproportionate. I would actually need a longer frame. So for me, this isn't quite ideal. They do have other options that are for someone like me, but we'll get Emma's opinion on this because I think it's a really good bike. But overall, I mean, you have hydraulic brakes, you have a 750 watt motor, a 48 volt battery, so it's got some pep. But overall, as a package, especially if this fits in, and some people don't mind the shorter frame, and we could always modify the handlebars, bring these up a little bit, that would work pretty well for me, I think. There's nothing that I feel like we're missing. This is all kind of all personal preference. You know, you go here and there. These are things you can modify, and the fact that it has the fenders means that we could easily take this on-road, off-road, cruise around, use this as a daily commuter, which I think you could agree with. I mean, you ride quite a few miles sometimes to and from work over a gravel/mud trail. I think this would do all right.
Oh, I think this would do totally fine. Yeah. Okay, and now for me, I have the opposite problem of Joel, where I have long legs and a shorter torso. So for me, this bike, the handlebars feel nice. I've got longer arms, and so like I don't feel like I have to reach very far. My posture is very upright. I would have probably actually raised the seat up a little bit higher than Joel, just so my legs a little bit straighter. But for me, the posture feels really, really good.
Let's take it for a spin. Okay, so we're gonna take a little cruise out here from one campground to another. It's a lovely day. Weather is, I think it's almost 60 degrees out, so I don't even need gloves. So here's the thing, not the quietest bike out there by any means. I don't think I don't care about it, but you might. It is a very comfy ride. Now, being a smaller frame though, I don't feel like I'm kind of leaning out quite enough. But it's a pretty quick ride. Now it is a cadence sensor, so it's not going to take the amount of pressure and the effort that you're putting in and match that, but it's totally fine. The only weird part about it though is where the throttle is on or off, not super torquey, right? So it's not gonna blow you out of your seat. It's very manageable, but check this out. It's kind of an interesting thing. So I start pedaling now. Whoa, there we go. Right, you can actually hear when I activate it. So stop, and it keeps going. Now stops. All right, so now 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Yeah, there's actually a bit of a delay. So 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, yeah, about 2 to 3 second delay. And then there's another 2 to 3 second delay from the time you stop pedaling to the time it actually cuts power, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, you don't see that with the throttle sensor. Now, I asked him about it, and it sounds like that was actually a pretty intentional engineering design. So there are some people that like the, instant, some that like the delay. But, whew, or getting going. And this bike has no problem doing 28, 29 right now. You're down to 28, 27, 28 again. We're all downhill, but it has no problem getting you up to speed, especially on flat land. It does okay with, woo, you can barely hear myself talk. It does do it pretty well with hills. It does great on gravel. It really is not bad. But you can see we can tackle this terrain no problem. No problem at all. Let's see. Here's a, yeah, no problem at all. Now, I have found that I'm not outrunning, there's not too much ghost pedaling. At 29 miles an hour, yeah, you're gonna get some ghost pedaling, I'd say, but for terrain like this, well, that might be the limit for us. But for the vast majority of your riding, it's gonna be no problem. Now, I like the rack. You can put all sorts of crap on the rack. Lots of accessories. Whew. There's lots to love about this. But the fat tires take a little bit of getting used to, especially if you're used to 1.75 inch tires, or especially like 700C tires. And you can see, especially with some pedaling, we're getting up there. I have found that the speedometer seems to be accurate for the most part, but after about 15 miles an hour, it's about 1 mile an hour ahead. Oh man, I need to tighten down my headlight there. But yeah, I did find that the speedometer is pretty accurate for the most part. But it is interesting, that delay in pedaling. I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan, but the fact that I almost always am throttling, and most people are, let's be real. If you're riding an e-bike, you're almost always on throttle. And we're throttle only going up this hill. Yeah, it's a pretty moderate hill, nothing crazy, right? And we're still increasing our speed, 19 miles an hour. On pedal assist 5, a little bit of delay, we can pedal. It's really not bad. Here's the thing, if I go down to pedal assist 0 in 4th gear, I'm still doing all right. Even in 1st gear, can it be done? Absolutely. And you can see, whew. There we go. Oh no. There we go, now we're back to cruising. The brakes work very well. Something to really like about this. The hardware, overall, really good. And the plastic fenders also mean you don't get a lot of play in that fender. You don't get a lot of noise as such, which is awesome. Not gonna be the most torquey or fastest bike, but you're also not paying for it. So this is a fantastic bike when it comes to budget, especially if you like the way it feels, the geometry and such, and a bike that you want to accessorize a little bit more. You don't have to buy fenders, you can save a couple bucks there. You don't have to buy extra lights if you don't really want them, because these are more than adequate. I'm actually a big fan. All right, we'll turn here. And as a bike that you can, scoot around from, campground to store to, whatever, especially if you want to be primarily on the throttle, this thing I think it does awesome. The seat, I find it fairly comfortable. Woo! Oh yeah, there we go. That was better. Pedals are one thing that I would upgrade. I have noticed that these pedals are just not the strongest. There we are. One just seems a little off. Not a big deal. Most people upgrade their pedals anyways to clips or straps, or you like bigger spikes, metal, whatever. But these, man, you can really take, the terrain just doesn't throw you around like it would on a skinnier tire bike. Are you having fun yet?
I may actually consider hopping a curb on this bike for once.
Oh, that's big news there. Oh, so the terrain comment, why is that funny?
I don't like to ride off-road. I don't like to ride on gravel. I don't like to ride on trails. I don't like to ride over curbs. I'm not the best at it.
Adventurous biker is not how you would describe Emma.
I am adventurous as long as that adventure is on a paved trail.
And even then, well,
Gravel trails are okay too.
And you never really rode, I mean, you rode a little bit as a kid, right?
Oh, I rode my bike all the time as a kid, in the neighborhood, on the street.
You'd never know it, because when we got to Seattle, and we're like, hey, why don't we start commuting by bike? And they were like regular, I guess they were kind of gravel grinder-ish, right?
Yeah.
Well, she was looking at the Dick's Burgers, and she kind of looks over to the side, and all of a sudden she just falls over. She was riding straight and it falls over in the
No, that is not what happened.
That is totally what happened.
Joel hopped a curb to go to Dick's, right in front of the Dick's. I went to go hop the curb behind him and couldn't do it.
You fell, there was that
over.
one, but you also just fell like straight up. You're just like, meh. That happened a different time. That totally happened.
That did not happen.
My point being, I think a lot of what it is this bike feels stable, right?
It feels very stable.
It's kind of interesting because you are leaning forward a little more, which helps.
I think I feel very in control of this bike when I ride it. Like the posture, it makes me feel in control. Like the wheels make me feel in control. I think the shorter wheel, like the shorter frame, makes me feel more in control of the bike.
Yeah.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think I just like feel more in control. It's very fun. It doesn't have a lot of get up and go, but it has enough to like not feel like I have to pedal my heart out. Like I got to give it a little pedal, and it has a good kick to it.
Did you feel the delay?
Yes, there is a delay.
There's a delay between like when the motor kicks on after you know with the cadence. Does that bother you? Because it's not my favorite thing. Does that bother you?
It bothered me the first time I rode it, because it's not what I'm used to. Like our other bikes are a lot quicker to pick up, but once you get used to it, like, okay, you gotta pedal. You just like kind of know what to expect.
And what do we do first? Always the throttle off the line. Honestly, it's all throttle, right? So, and I gotta say, okay, $1,099.
Worth
Yay,
it.
nay, yeah. It's pretty well worth it, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, because you get a lot of bike for $1,100. Yeah. There, there are a few things that like you're gonna want to modify, of course, with any bike, but for under $1,100, you can afford to, right? I mean, you have a little bit of extra change. I would actually kind of relate this a little bit to the Rad Rover that I had. Now I had the step through version, not the step over, and you didn't love that.
No, I did not love that.
Well, and that bike was what?
The frame was a lot longer.
It was, and that was like $1,800.
Something like that.
Or no, it was like, I can't remember what we spent. It was a lot more. I gotta say, this is a steal compared to that.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. This is not going to be my primary bike. I still have not found my bike, but will this be yours?
This will be my primary bike.
Will you be happy with it?
I think so. Yeah. It feels really comfortable to ride, and I feel very in control, which is like a huge thing for me on a bike. And
you've never really liked fat tire, tall tire, 26-inch e-bike. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I want to thank Kingbull for sending this on over. That's such a cool thing. We just found Emma's new bike because unfortunately, as you guys, if it's the first time, we have a new travel trailer that has a 200-pound hitch limit, rear hitch. So we've got to get our total under 200 pounds. And as long as we take this battery off, we should have no problem with that.
Yeah.
So I think we found your bike. That's freaking awesome. Now we need to find one for me. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you're considering, I'll leave a link in the pinned comment. This is, the Kingbull Hunter 2.0. And I think it looks sweet. And we'll just have to, we'll strap on a little bag for you. Actually, a basket would be more useful.
Probably want a basket. I like baskets better.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan. We just gotta tighten down the front thing and the headlight, and off we go. Yeah, love it. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Kingbull, and we will see you in the next video.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Oh, fun fact, because I almost forgot. What is the most important feature of an e-bike?
Waterproof.
It's waterproof. IP65 rated. We were just going to put this in, and Emma's in an awkward position here. Yeah, it's waterproof. That's a huge deal because we don't keep these in the garage or anything like that. So kind of a nice thing. Okay, good to go.